I'm Bambi Francisco, and I'm speaking with John Battelle, who's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Federated Media. We're going to talk about how the internet has changed the advertising and publishing landscape. John, if you were to write a headline and lead graph about what's happening in internet advertising today, what would that be?
The return of the brand. For 50 years, brand marketers had figured out how to get people to change their perception of what that brand meant in between their ears by telling stories on television. And those stories came in the unit of a 30-second commercial, maybe 15, maybe a minute, but 30 seconds. And it really worked. And it still works. The ability to tell a story in 30 seconds using the same medium that people are watching Oprah or NFL football is
or Vader News.
Or Vader News
yeah.
is extraordinarily engaging if you get it all right. And the alchemy is quite difficult. But the entire infrastructure of the media marketing business has been built around that, and it doesn't work in the online space. Now, some of it can translate directly, but for the most part, you need to do the same thing that you did in terms of creating a native infrastructure of media and marketing companies around the concept of television advertising. You need to do that online, and we simply haven't done it yet. And there is a huge opportunity to build the companies that are going to do that.
Now, they're starting to do it. I know AppSavvy they're trying to make the brands part of the conversation,
yep.
which is what you're focusing on, conversational media. How is Federated Media helping advertisers reach this audience that's conversing?
Well, we're starting with a general thesis, which is sort of the premise of most of my work these days, which is if you don't join the conversations customers are having about you and your brands and the things that matter to your brands, you're dead. I mean, maybe not immediately, but over time you will become irrelevant. So you need to create a set of muscles that allows you as a brand to be in the conversation. There are a lot of innovative and interesting companies that are doing that as well beyond FM. But we've built a platform and a set of products and have relationships with what we consider sort of the leaders and influencers of conversations in various segments, whether they're technology, business, home, entertainment, that allow brands to come into those conversations in a way where value is created. And when you create value in a conversation, you accrue value back, right? So you add value, you get value back. And that, we believe, is how you build a brand. And so we've had a lot of extraordinary successes doing that. And so we're building on that.
Success.
One that we use all the time is American Express Open, which is their small business brand, and we've helped them build a platform for having conversations with small business people at scale. And that platform has turned into a major tool for American Express to engage with their customers and potential customers that sort of qualify against any number of marketing objectives, whether it's straight conversion to card membership or it's changing perception of brand. All this is measurable, of course, to consideration, like should I get a card? Maybe all the various things that you try to do in a marketing program. Allowing American Express to host a conversation about small business and become seen as a resource for that for valuable information has really shifted the brand. And
are you trying to sort of create applications too for Facebook and marketing?
We're doing all of that, yeah. And it's it's interesting. We're watching the media publishing world collide with the agency world, collide with the brand world, and everyone's sort of in everyone else's business. And we see ourselves sort of as a Switzerland trying to kind of bring all of these things together and add value in the process.
And not so much about FM, because I actually do like to talk to you about more of what your vision and what you like to talk about. So I want to talk about, you wrote the book, The Search.
Yep.
And now there are a number of real-time search companies out there, Twitter through Surmise, Collecta, which I just...
I seem to get someone tells me about one every day.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on real-time search?
Wow, are we early in that game? But the idea that there is data that's available in the moment that's responsive to what we might want to know in the moment is extremely exciting. And I think the shift from going to what has been said to what are people saying now presents an opportunity that gets us to a conversation. So I can say, okay, I'm not hearing what anyone's saying about this. What do people think? Well, you can turn a query upside down, right, and actually get a response back, which is why I'm interested in companies like Aardvark, which are starting to do interesting things with call and response against actual human beings as opposed to an algorithm and static content, which is Google. Not that Google's a bad thing, but when you start to move into a conversation at scale, you can start to do things that are very different.
What about Google introduced, well, actually overturned Yahoo, the pay-per-click model, a new model. What's the model for real-time search, or will a new model emerge with the advertising? Perhaps there's an advertising model.
I think there are a lot of models. I think the model that we're all familiar with, AdSense AdWords, is, by the way, of course, already a real-time auction. Right? So the infrastructure behind it is a real-time auction where people have set up parameters that they say, okay, let these parameters roll with these particular floors and ceilings of spend. I see no reason why the same model can't be adapted to real-time. Right? I mean, the idea that Twitter or Facebook won't have a platform that when anyone asks a question that has any commercial intent, there isn't instantly some declaration of, hey, you were just saying, I'm thinking about buying a car. Here's what people are saying about the car you're thinking about buying. And here's what I have to say about those people are saying. I'm Toyota, and that bad Prius review. Well, here's why it was. There's an infinite amount of things that can be done there, and I think it's a huge commercial opportunity.
Google founder Larry Page said real-time search is essential. Should Google buy Twitter?
I think I argued 6 months ago they didn't have a choice but to buy Twitter.
For how much?
Well, the fact is that it probably isn't for sale to Google, which is what makes it so interesting, right? I mean, Evan's already sold the company to Google. Why does he want to do it again? He probably made a fair amount of money. I mean, I don't know how much, but I'm sure it was 2003. That was pre-IPO. So my guess is that we have one of these wonderful happy accidents, which is that if they can keep the wheels on that service, and it's hard to grow a service through that, that kind of an inflection. You've got the happy coincidence of a set of founders who don't feel like they need to sell. No,
they don't, and they feel like they're in it too.
Right.
They want to stay
in it. And so that means that we get to watch, something happen.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
What do you think of Dig's sort of thumbs up, thumbs down for advertising, that type of ad model?
Well, I think any step that's taken that increases the dialogue between a marketer and a consumer is a good thing. I think that there is a supply-demand problem in that the supplier of revenue and marketing, the advertiser, is not quite at the point where they understand how to take those kinds of signals and make them mean something to them so that they can then invest in it again. So we're in a period of experimentation.
Right. I think that's something that still needs to be thought through.
Right.
But I guess they'll just test it out. You started in 2004. Federated Media.
Well, officially 05.
05. How have your expectations changed about advertising and publishing?
It's just far more complicated and way more interesting than I ever thought it would be. It's just way more interesting.
Well, back then you didn't have Audify, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have a lot of different things.
No. We just had this new sort of emergent behavior called blogging in terms of being sort of a new kind of media that potentially might be interesting to marketers. Now we have fields of different kind of new innovative forms of media that might be interesting to marketers. And of course FM has adapted to all of that. We have sites, all types of sites, all types of media. But we started where the first emergent type, formed, which was blogging.
It feels like I'm jumping around here, but not. I just want to get through these questions. Condé Nast shut down Portfolio magazine, which they spent $100 million. You obviously around Wired, industry standard. How do you launch a magazine today? Can you launch a magazine today?
I'm quite sure you can. I have no idea how. I personally think that the energy and the soul of what made most great magazines what they are has transferred to the web. If I look at the great entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things that look to me exactly like magazines from intent, community, passion, engagement, they're on the web, right? So why would you want to spend $8, 10, 15, $20 million to put it on, or 100 to put it on paper? If you are going to do that, you better have a really good reason why it's on paper. And I'm sure there are really good reasons. I just haven't used my energy lately to figure those reasons out.
One final question. You are going to find somebody else to lead the company You've done this before. You left your companies. You've started a book. We've got search. Search is changing again. We have real-time search. What's the next book? When do you start that? When can we start reading it on your blog?
Well, it's called The Conversation Economy, and I write about it from time to time on my site. Not as much as nearly as I would like to, but I expect that will change in the coming year. And it's about the shift that's occurring in our economy and in our culture, as all of us expect that our ability to simply emit a query about anything related to business deserves a response. Mm-hmm. So if I can simply say, because I've got something like this connected to my body, why isn't the Comcast guy here? And Comcast responds to me. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you why. Instead of having to pick up a phone and wait for 5 minutes on an 800 number, or leave a message or whatever, wait for a guy for a day. The ability for companies to have conversations with their customers at scale is going to be presumptive in 10 to 20 years. My book wants to paint what that picture looks like and how we're going to get there.
Okay, John. Well, I'm sure I'm looking forward to reading that book.
I can't wait to write it.
Yeah, once you've read it. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been speaking with John Battelle. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Federated Media. I'm Bambi Francisco.